Thank you so much for making the effort to attend this annual general meeting in the 20th anniversary year of the Portsmouth Mediation Service. As I was typing up the list of your names for this event, I was struck by the enormous amount of talent and huge variety of gifting in this room tonight. You know, we have seen so tragically in Nice and Munich how one person can kill and destroy so much. Good evening, Alex. Come on in. The opposite is also true, that a few people can bring so much hope and restoration to so many. The exciting thing for me is that most people here this evening have at least glimpsed a vision of something new for this city, a restorative Portsmouth. I know that just the skills, talent and vision in this room, coupled with tenacious action, can help reconcile and repair even the most fractured of communities. An annual general meeting is always a time for reflection and taking stock. But for me, this evening is also a springboard towards our mission ahead. You can read about our vision and mission in this document here. Ultimately, it's about the peace and prosperity of Portsmouth and its citizens. I meet a few people who sort of stumble over this peace and prosperity bit, as if it was something cheap and tacky. I even thought about changing our language, but no. Yes, some of the prosperity has to do with money. There is a poverty in many of our communities that an increase in income and resources would solve. But there's also a poverty of friendship and relationship. There's a poverty of skills and education. There's a personal poverty of mind, body and soul, and a lack of inner peace. Many of our communities are poor in morale, unity and spirit. People are often lonely and alone. I've said before, there are many great organisations, voluntary groups and charities that do amazing work in helping people in Portsmouth to live and prosper and have peaceful lives. We want to be part of that, at the heart of that. We see plainly that we need to be an integral element of a joined up and connected approach to this big idea of a restorative Portsmouth. It is a big idea. Some of you will have heard me say that whenever I think about this enormous idea of a restorative city, I remember that it starts with me trying to drive more restoratively, be more of a restorative father to my family, a more restorative husband and friend. Restorative comes one person at a time. From our point of view, it can take a lot of time and effort, but the results are worth it. I was hoping this evening to introduce you to Tina Downey, one of our assessment officers, who did some amazing work in Waterlooville. So in her absence, I'm just going to give her testimony as to the difference our team can make. This was a guy, Jim, a police officer from Waterlooville Police Station, that helped facilitate this meeting with residents from a local block. There were, a dozen, and I think, Abby, you were there as well, weren't you? There was a dozen or so different units in this maisonette, and the police in Waterlooville have been called out over 122 times in 18 months. I don't know what the cost of that is, but there is a cost, of course. And all sorts of stuff that was going down in terms of drugs. I've got some of Tina's notes here. There were drugs, drug distribution, verbal assault, intimidation, damage to property, and loud parties. So we get this referral from the police in association with Wecock Farm Housing Office, and Tina uses her skills to interview everybody in that block. And once you start to talk to people and you learn, some of what's going on behind the door and some of the challenges that they've got, you do get a fresh heart for people. And Tina was able, after a lengthy process, to interview everybody and persuade them to attend a meeting in the local community centre. I think the policeman was involved as well. They sat round in a circle, and Abby, I think you facilitated that along with co-mediated that with Tina. It's one of my favourite stories because at that meeting, very shortly after people had had their say, there was a handshake and another handshake and then even a hug. And at the end of that restorative meeting, these guys went outside and had a fag and come back and had a cup of tea and sealed the deal, if you like. And we were at Waterlooville Police Station, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I'll get Abby to share a bit more about that in a moment, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they have not had one call out to that block of flats since. Now that's not because it's Disneyland or anything, but you know, people have that negative ripple has been exchanged for a positive one. There was one guy who was like whacking his broom on the ceiling because of the loud music upstairs, and at the meeting the lady said yes, she said I was playing my music loud, I was getting wrecked every night and having a party as such and drinking too much, but this was because I found out, you know, earlier that week that I'd got cancer. And so the person who's whacking his broom on the ceiling suddenly gets a different perspective, and instead of, you know, making a noise, he's now doing her shopping. And, you know, so you can exchange those negative ripples for positive ripples that have such an amazing effect on the community. And, you know, Marie referred to me as a business consultant. I came in here a year ago because the place was in a pickle. And the trustee said, could you just sort of steady the ship for a couple of months? And I made this point the other day. The only reason that I'm still here is because I've seen something that's amazing. I've seen that the job we do, and I'll talk more about this joined up, connected approach in a moment. But I see that the job that we do and the people that we can work alongside can make a big difference. My notes say thank you, Tina. About a year ago, I walked through the door of Portsmouth Mediation Service, and somebody says to me, mediation is becoming an outdated word, the future is restorative. And I sort of got that without even really understanding it. In those early days, about a year ago, I started to do a lot of observing. And one of the things I observed was a multi-agency meeting. So at the hub, across that railway line, I did my fly on the wall bit, sat in the corner while this multi-agency meeting went off. There was, in attendance, there was our assessment officer, there was the police officer, there was the antisocial behaviour unit officer, there was the housing officer, and the headmistress of a school who had been beaten up by the child from the family these people were all trying to help. And it was at that point I thought, yes, of course, we've got to have a joined up approach. We can't work in isolation. Housing can't work in isolation of the police and the schools. We need to get connected and form good relationships and partnerships to help this idea of a restorative Portsmouth. And that's what I like about this restorative vision, if you like, because it's bigger than policing. It's bigger than teaching. It's bigger than housing. It's something that we can all sort of, it's something that can glue us together for what I think can be a really exciting journey. I'm going to show you a little video now. Marie mentioned that Laura's sunning herself in Malta. Before she went, she made a little video. I think we'll show you that just to show you what can happen when you start to work with some of the children in our city. And this came about because of this headmistress that was at that multi-agency meeting. It occurred to me that some of our little children have seen things that they shouldn't have seen. Not all of them have got great role models. And, Laura's helping to pioneer, to trailblaze this Teach Peace programme. We're going to roll it out to every primary school in Portsmouth. And as these little children grow up, they'll take these skills through with them to adult and work. Let me show you the video.
Hi, my name's Laura Rook and I live in Portsmouth. I work for the Portsmouth Mediation Service. I've been with the service now for about 10 years and my role is to help people in the community that are experiencing neighbour problems and low-scale antisocial behaviour. In more recent years I've also trained up in restorative practice as well, so I use the mediation and the restorative approaches in the work that I do in dealing with conflict in the community. One of the things that we've really started to see become an issue in the community is that children just don't seem to have the skills to be able to deal with conflict, and there's a lot of conflict, bullying and problems happening in the streets and no one knows how to deal with it. The parents are struggling to deal with it, and it got us to thinking that maybe there's something we could do to try and help the children. Maybe we could share what we use, the skills that we use. So we decided we're going to set up our own program, the Teach Peace program, using the mediation and the restorative approaches, and that's what we've done. We've been running this program for the last year now. It's funded by the Police and Crime Commissioner and we're looking to expand this across the whole of Portsmouth. I'm going to just spend a few minutes explaining what the Teach Peace program looks like. So what does the Teach Peace program look like? Well, we really believe it needs to be a whole school approach, so we believe it needs to be the children and the staff and the parents as well. We really need everyone to be dealing with conflict in the same way. So what we do a workshop from the reception year up to year 6, and the first workshop we do is on positive relationships. So we really get the kids to get to know each other. We spend a lot of circle times going around saying what they like about each other. What does a good day at school look like? What does a bad day at school look like? And the idea is if they know each other more, they can understand each other better and conflict is less likely to occur. Then the second workshop, we do actually look at conflict and we say, so when it does occur, what does conflict look like? What does it look like at home? What does it look like at school? And how do you deal with it? So what we do is we give them the restorative questions of what happened, what were you thinking and feeling, who's been hurt and what needs to happen now. And we get the children and the staff to all use those same questions. We have actions for it, we have the questions written out on a card as well. So everyone is using those questions and the kids take those cards home and get their parents to be using it as well. So, and what we're finding is the whole school is making a massive impact in the classroom and outside in the playground because everyone is dealing with conflict in the same way. Everyone knows it's simple, it's easy and everyone's doing it. So once we've done those 2 workshops, then what we do is we ask year 4, 5 and 6, the older ones, if they want to train up to be mediators themselves so that they can be peer mediators in their school. And we had so much interest in this, so we had to select a group of children from this, which wasn't an easy task, but we did it. And then what we did was we spent 16 weeks with those children and we basically spend time training them up to be mediators. So we look at good body language, listening skills, not judging, not stereotyping, not taking sides, what does being neutral mean. So we spend time teaching them all of those things, and then at the end we get them to really focus on those restorative questions, so when they have those meetings and they bring the kids together, they use those restorative questions to deal with the conflict. So we kind of combine the 2 things, the restorative approaches and the mediation approaches in the training. And we're at this stage now where the children are being mediators out in the playgrounds. They've got the problem solving table, they hang out there, they've got their caps on, so everyone knows that they're the mediators. If there's a conflict they go over to them, but the mediators are also walking around the playgrounds looking for people who are on their own or upset. And they're able to recognise people that they need to help, and they go over, they ask if they're all right, and if they're not, and if there's been a problem, they use those restorative questions and they bring them back to the problem solving table. And we're seeing such an amazing difference that this is making. You know, the kids are saying sorry, sorting the situations out, and they're playing, and the adults don't have to do this anymore. They don't have to get involved. Their role is just really just to support, and obviously if things are, you know, for the more severe incidents, then they take the lead in those, but otherwise it's the kids doing it. So we're at the stage now where we want to spread this across the whole of Portsmouth. We have volunteers helping us to do this, but it's massive, Portsmouth, so we really need more help to do this. So if you're interested in helping support us in any way so that we can run this programme across the whole of Portsmouth, we'd really like to hear from you. So just give us a call, Portsmouth Mediation Service. Okay, thank you, bye-bye.
What happened? What were you thinking and feeling? Who's been hurt?
It's amazing. This scheme is amazing. I was at their party where they invited their parents along. We had some food and drink, and the headmistress was there. Then we presented them with their certificates and their smart red caps. I mean, I think the parents were astounded. One of the parents said to me, "Oh, she absolutely loves this. She's been going along every Wednesday, loves loves the whole idea of what's going on. And even when I start to become a bit loud, she says, "Oh, Mum, you need to be, we need to sort this out." And those questions, if you can get hold of those questions, I'm not an expert yet. What's happened? What doesn't need to happen anyway? If you can get hold of those questions, they can revolutionise your life. These little peacemakers in this school are going to change it from the inside out. And I think it's been amazing. It's only a few months old in a sense. This time last year, it was an idea in Laura's head, and now in Arkirton School in Somerstown, there are little mediators in the playground. I love that, the friendship bench. If you've been hurt or you haven't got a buddy to play with or anything, you sit on the friendship bench, and the guys with a cap will spot you. And if it kicks off, they'll take you to the solution table and they'll sort it out. It's going to be amazing. We're going to train a new team because we've lost some of the mediators. They've gone up to the bigger school already. So next year, the head, and it was great to see the headmistress. They have lots of things at school. There's lots of demands on teachers, and heads. Sometimes they're just laying on the top of it, But I saw the head's eyes light up that afternoon. I saw her get it in a sense, and she was like, "Listen, please come back." She'd just been to a meeting where business people were trying to explain to education professionals what they want from the school children, because employers like certificates, but they really love skills. They love a can-do, attitude. They love experience. And she was saying this just ticks the box because it's all about positive relationships. We had somebody come in and independently assess it. And I was just observing her asking these kids the questions. I was thinking, oh my goodness, they're never going to, I was trying to think of the answers myself. And I was coming up with one or two in my head. These kids knew what they knew. They knew their stuff. I was just so impressed with that. So impressed with what Laura's done. And so excited. I think Charles Dickens, Ark Dickens School may well be next. But schools are definitely a place that Portsmouth Mediation Service want to be involved with. We want to be involved with the young people. It's an important part of this joining up. Jim, you were talking about the Harbour School, and funny enough, we've got a meeting with a lady from Harbour School in a couple of weeks' time, Milton, about, I believe there's already some sort of initiative in Portsmouth aimed at primary school children, and now I think they've just said, hold on, do we want to, reinvent the wheel? Is there something here that we can use? So I'm excited about this opportunity of seeing Teach Peace rolled out to other schools. Okay, so imagine at this multi-agency meeting, I'm seeing all of these different spheres of life that join up for the sake of its citizens. One of those, of course, was the police. And I'm just going to get all my speakers have sort of have all dropped off one by one. Good job I didn't know earlier, Loveday. You'd have had a session now. But I'm just going to get Abby to come and talk to us a little bit about our experience with developing relationships with our local police, our local community teams, and what dividend that's paying. Yeah? Give her a round of applause.
Okay, so my name's Abby. I've been with the service since July 2014. And firstly, I'd like to say thank you to Steve, because if he hadn't have walked through our doors, I don't think we'd be still going right now. And I know you joke that you don't really know what we're doing, but you embody the whole restorative thing. You've been a real driving force. So thank you very much. And to all the trustees as well. You've all been really supportive. So thank you. So I've had the privilege of fronting the police project. So before Steve came along, we were already doing a little bit. So we'd been out to see a few police stations and try and get a working relationship with them, but the cases were quite low, but we knew there was something there. So then when Steve came in, he sort of honed in on that opportunity and agreed that it's something that we really need to be doing. So we recognise that police are the front line of our communities. So day in, day out, they're amidst the conflict and the antisocial behaviour, and so they're integral to building this restorative Portsmouth that we envisage. We also recognise that with cuts to funding and staff, time restraints and huge demand on the police force, particularly with these sorts of neighbour disputes which take up so much time, we knew that we could help and we wanted to help. So we developed a pretty simple strategy, which started, I guess, around this time last year, probably, maybe September. We were just going to go and visit the police stations and get to know them really well. So we started with the central station. We then went to Southsea, Havant, Waterlooville and Cosham. We brought them right up to date on what we're doing, our vision. It's no longer mediation, it's restorative, it's assessment. So we got them sort of filled in on that, and they completely shared our vision and they totally understood what we were doing. And they were actually much more on board than we ever could have hoped for. So we had police officers who were trying to mediate neighbour disputes themselves and doing a pretty good job, but they didn't have the time for it. Some were already restorative justice trained. We were invited by the sergeant at Southsea, Dean Juster, to attend a crime reduction environment week because he saw our place in reducing crime in the communities. And then they asked us whether we only worked with PCC properties, Portsmouth City Council. And at that point we made a decision that although we were working with Portsmouth City Council money, one thing we always knew was that everything, as Steve said earlier, joins up. So whether it's PCC tenants, it's housing association, privately owned or rented, or even establishments in the community, it's all part of a wider community. And you can never have a wholly restorative city if you're only helping half its citizens. So we needed to have completeness in our approach. So we now work with all citizens of Portsmouth, Havant and Waterlooville. And our next step was meeting Chief Inspector Jim Pegler, who's here today, and Partnership Inspector Chris White, who are both really supportive of everything that we were doing. Jim, you said how in our meeting how important it was to join up all the agencies and the organisations. So we were already walking down the same path effectively, which was really helpful. Then another thing that I did was spent a whole day with Havant neighbourhood patrol team, out in the police wagon with them, having some coffee and donuts with them in the station and getting to see what they do. And it was so broad and proactive, and what they do is amazing. They already act and think so restoratively in many respects, so that was fantastic. But all the teams that we've met have been wonderful, and I feel like we're really lucky to have them looking out for our communities, and I'm really enjoying working with them. So far, referrals are really going up. So in the last 8 weeks, we've had 23 referrals. 14 of those were private. So if we were only working with council tenants, that's 14 cases that we wouldn't have even touched. So 14, double that at least, people that wouldn't have had our help. And just to put that into context, in the 8 weeks prior to that, we only had 8. In the 8 weeks prior to that, it was only 8. So it really is going up, which is exactly what we want. We want to work more with the police. And it really is a pleasure to be working with them. So we look forward to doing more of that. So that's right.
Did you get those kind words on the video? I didn't pay her to say that. Thank you, Abby. And it's interesting. If you ask police men and women, why don't you refer more cases to Portsmouth Mediation Service, you get the honest answer. This is what we did with housing officers originally. Why don't you refer more of this conflict to us? And the stock answer would be, well, we mentioned Portsmouth Mediation, that you people need to get together and have some mediation, and they go, no, we don't want any mediation, and that's how it goes. But we said, okay, just try something different then. It's just giving the people at the sharp end the right words, isn't it? The right words to say at that point. You know, try this, for example. Thank you for bringing this problem to our attention. Let me explain what's going to happen next. We're going to refer you to a specialist assessment officer who's completely independent and impartial, and they're going to come and spend some time with you and help you find a solution to this problem. Now, as they're starting to use those words, they're closing more and more deals in a sense, and you have to sell that referral. That referral has to be sold. Housing officers are doing exactly the same. They were getting involved before, and now they're passing. They're making, you know, and when Abby then makes that subsequent phone call, that's an easy appointment to get. The person's expecting our call, so it's been really good. And as with all these things, it's performance punishing. So our guys now, we've got a bit of sickness in the team, but our guys now have got a lot of work on. And that's why we need to generate volunteer help. We'll talk more about that in a minute. I'm delighted that Jim Pegler, Portsmouth's new Chief Inspector, is here this evening. I know that Jim is someone who wants to lend his influence to the idea of a restorative Portsmouth. He is proactively looking to help the victims of crime to be able to benefit from the opportunities of restorative justice. If you remember at the end of Laura's video, her plea was for more people to join her in helping to roll this programme out to every primary school in Portsmouth. There are now so many different opportunities for people to join this journey. And of course, you can still volunteer as a mediator in Portsmouth Mediation Service. At the moment, I'm delighted to welcome Sally, who's volunteered to take minutes. Now, honestly, you can volunteer for anything, and that for me was a godsend if you know how our team meetings go. There are details in this annual report of our next training course that will start this September. We thought it would be a good idea for you to hear firsthand what the role involves. So here to give his view, on being a mediator is one of our most experienced volunteers. Put your hands together, Mr. Ed Rees, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I'm going to have to apologise. I've had a day from hell today, and so I'm not as prepared for this as I would like to be. So, is it predominantly just about the mediation and sort of?
Yeah, just your. I mean, you've been with the service a number of years. And
yeah.
You take on volunteering as a mediator.
Yeah. So I came on board about 15 years ago when the service was under very different management, and certainly we're very grateful to have Steve and some sort of passionate leadership over the last 12 months. And I think everyone would agree that the service is probably in a better state today than it ever has been. Perhaps I can talk a little bit about what I love about the mediation process, and certainly from a very selfish point of view, what I love about the mediation service is being able to offer and bring resolution to conflict. I know we're doing stuff in schools now. We're also doing stuff with the police, or whether it's for our core work with Portsmouth City Council. But it's a fantastic opportunity that sometimes we live in a little bit of a bubble, and it's great to really sit down with people and firstly see that what you think about your own problems isn't exactly a reality, and that there are people out there with a lot of greater problems than you have, and certainly that's a nice leveller in life. But also through mediation, and I'm someone that bizarrely personally went through a little bit of a sort of bitter dispute with one of my old best friends in a sort of a business matter which I won't go into. But certainly one thing I love about the mediation process is its ability to solve issues, real issues that people are having. And quite often when we talk about them afterwards, they may seem sort of very how can I put it, simple, silly things that these people are getting concerned about. It might be a parking issue, it might be a noise issue, but actually when you see how affected these people are by, however small you might consider it to be by these issues, sometimes it really can, cause people ill health. And what's been fantastic is through the mediation service is just experiencing how we as mediators through our training can bring a resolution to those problems, and it's really encouraging actually after you've been in and you have a positive mediation. They're not all positive, unfortunately, in life. You can't always have a 100% success rate. But certainly there is nothing greater, and I refer to Loveday, and I did one recently where we had a lovely letter from a gentleman at a housing association, and it's moments like that that make it all worthwhile. So a very waffly, quick sort of, and I apologise, I'm not better prepared for this evening, but certainly one thing I would like to say is just a big thank you to everyone. Certainly 12 months ago we went through a slightly rocky period, and over the last 12 months the service has transformed tremendously, and I think that we really owe to Steve and his leadership, and certainly sort of all the members of staff at Portsmouth Mediation who are really passionate about what they do, and certainly as volunteers it's lovely to work with you guys, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, sure. So I'm really proud of Sue and Loveday. They together developed our mediation training that we run this year. Joe was on that course. We're going to run another one in September. So if you're thinking about volunteering as a mediator, let us know. Okay. I just want to echo some of what's been said earlier. What a great team you've got. What a great team of professionals. What a great team of volunteers. Brilliant trustees. Really, it was a wholesale change in terms of trustees this time last year. Pay tribute to our chair, Marie, who Marie's got a lot of experience in the voluntary sector, and she's used all of that experience to help navigate us through some really choppy waters. I remember last bank holiday, I'm not going to go into detail, but last August bank holiday, it looked grim. So thank you for Marie for all that you've done for this organisation. For Dr. Alex Boylan, he's going to do his little slot in a minute, I'm sure. Got your stick with you? Look at that. It's hard enough being a treasurer, isn't it? With juggling figures and stuff. But Alex has had to juggle pension legislation, and quite simply, I think if half the stuff that he's had to deal with fell at my door, I'd have run off. It would have been the fight or flight thing. Derek's been providing great continuity. He is the missing link, if you like, to years gone by, and Ed, who a volunteer for Portsmouth Mediation for a number of years. This time last year, he stepped up to the plate when this service needed some support. So thank you guys, thank you all the volunteers, and I just know that we are on a journey that's never ending in a sense. I thought to myself this time last year, somebody once said you'll always have death and taxes. And I thought probably conflict as well. So, what we did a year ago was to search back through the archives and find the original articles of association. And it said the objective of Portsmouth Mediation Service was predominantly for the people of Portsmouth. So that's what we did. We turned away from some of the places we were running after and looked back again at Portsmouth. And that's why we've got the Portsmouth Yacht team here tonight, and the Portsmouth University, and the Portsmouth Police. We're focused on Portsmouth, focused on this restorative city for the benefit of its citizens, and just really excited about the future. I know the trustees now are going to have to look at whether this temporary contract or whatever. Well, it's not even a contract, is it? Because I'm excited, and I don't really want to go anywhere. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm going to hand over to our treasurer. Thank you.